Hey everyone, today we're going to be counting down my top 10 favorite 3DS games of all time. This was really hard to narrow down to just 10 games, so I do have a few honorable mentions thrown in there. I had a few different criteria for picking out my favorite games. I literally pulled everything out of my collection, spread it all out on the floor, and picked the games out one by one that I knew that I loved. Some of them were pretty easy. I was like, oh yep, that grabbed it, snatched it right up right away. But the criteria I used for picking these games is number one, gameplay. There's nothing I hate more than a game that has poor gameplay mechanics. That's just so frustrating and can ruin any good game. My second thing was a good, intriguing story. I am definitely not one of those people that will skip a cutscene and just skip over the story in general to get to like the fighting or the action or whatever. I really like a good story, like a well-told story. So story is very important to me as far as holding my attention. It is really hard for a game to hold my attention from beginning to end, I'm not gonna lie. I have a really bad habit of starting like 3 or 4 games at once and finishing maybe one of them or none, or coming back to them months later and then finishing them. So if a game can hold my attention from start to finish where I play it all through pretty quickly, then it's definitely a good game in my book. And last but not least is replayability. If I can replay a game once, twice, over and over again, then it's a good game to me. Then I'm really getting my money's worth out of that game. So that is the criteria I use to narrow this giant list of games down. So we're gonna go ahead and hop right in and get this video moving. But before we do, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on more awesome videos like this in the future. And let's hop right in. So in the number 10 spot, we have Paper Mario Sticker Star. I really enjoyed this game. It is another spin off of the typical Paper Mario franchise. If you've never played any of the RPG style Mario games like the Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story or Mario & Luigi Dream Team, you're definitely missing out. Those games and these Paper Mario games tend to have the best Mario humor, especially for longtime Mario fans. They just like to poke fun at themselves, and they have some really corny but hilarious jokes in them, and this does not fall short on that end either. The whole concept of this game is that you collect stickers and you use them for attacking. The battles are turn-based, RPG style, and you collect regular stickers like a boot for a jump attack, a hammer for a hammer attack, a fire flower for a fire attack, and all the, typical Mario style attacks, but you have to have that sticker to attack the enemy. Now at face value that sounds kind of annoying and weird, but it actually works out really well. I remember when I was playing it through the first time I was like, really? I have to have these stickers? But I really enjoyed it. You get a ton of stickers from defeating enemies, and then you can also buy stickers at Toad shops, and they're not expensive, so they're not gonna eat up all your coins. But this is definitely worth a playthrough. Definitely no shade for being in the number 10 spot. Alright, and moving on, in our number 9 spot, we have Yoshi's New Island. Now, I never played the original Yoshi's Island. I started with this one, and I have no regrets. The gameplay is just like your typical Mario game, side-scrolling action, but they're harder. The levels are more intricate, timing is more of a factor, and there's a ton of hidden stuff. There's also plenty of collectibles in these games, and you also get a bonus at the end if you have all of your hearts, as your life meter is hearts, similar to like a Zelda game, and if you have them all at the end of the level, that's also considered like part of your collectibles. So you definitely get a lot of replay value out of this, and the fact that you can go back, play levels over, and try to get a perfect score on the level. So I definitely love this. It's adorable. Yeah, there's not much else to say about it other than I'm a huge Yoshi lover, and this was a good time. It did have some frustrating levels, but that just means that it's challenging, and I'm always up for a good challenge. So give this a try if you haven't played it yet. Alright, and rounding the corner in the number 8 spot, we have Super Mario 3D Land. this is a pretty cool take on the typical Mario games. It plays similar to Super Mario 64 in that all the levels are 3D instead of flat side-scrolling action, which I have no problem with that. I love that. But this is just something new, something refreshing. All of the levels are fun. I think there's a few new power-ups in this one, like the boomerang suit, and you can also use that propeller helmet that is in the Wii games for Mario. So this is definitely a fun game. It's a fun new take on the series, and I really enjoyed it. Any Mario game that has the classic level system, I think, has ton of replay value. There's always secrets in those levels that you can uncover. Try to get all the coins, try to get a good score. Definitely a lot of replay value in any Super Mario game. Definitely give this a shot if you haven't already. Alright, and coming in at number 7, we have something a little different. This is Resident Evil Revelations. I know there is a Resident Evil Revelations 2, which I don't think I've actually played. But this one was exclusive to 3DS for a while. I believe it got ported over to PS4 and maybe Vita. But this is a really cool game. It is very true to the classic Resident Evil franchise, but with some new, scarier, creepier enemies. Even though this is pocket-sized, it did keep me on the edge of my seat from time to time. It takes place on a cruise ship, which is a very creepy environment. If you've never been on a cruise, you're kind of stuck on a giant boat in the middle of the ocean. So this is definitely new. I actually played this a few months before going on a cruise and was a little creeped out about going afterwards. But I like the enemies. You get to play as Jill from the original Resident Evil games. It's definitely a good addition to the Resident Evil lineup. Rounding in at number 6, we have New Super Mario Bros. 2. This is your classic Mario side-scrolling action. If you can't tell by this list, I am a huge Super Mario fan. Classic side-scrolling level hopping is definitely not a bad thing for me. This, I think, is the first Mario game that introduces the Mini Mario and Mega Mario power-ups. Mini Mario is when he has to be really tiny. He can jump really high and can fit in really tiny crevices, so you have to have him to get to a few certain areas of the game, but he also dies really easily, so that adds a whole new challenge to the game, while Mega Mario just tears everything up in sight and is ginormous. So that's pretty cool. This game is really fun, and there's always replay values in these kinds of games. As I said in the other one, there's always things to explore in the levels, and I believe when you get to the end of this one, there's some bonus levels that are really hard. And I don't think if I'm thinking of the stages, it's been a while since I played this. They're pretty hard. I don't think I ever beat the special stages at the end that you can unlock if you have enough of the big star coins. So this is definitely a lot of fun and worth the money to pick up. You can play this 2-player through local co-op if you have a friend that has this game as well, and I have done that. That's pretty fun. I forgot to mention it, but you can also play co-op in Resident Evil Revelations. I never did it. You can also play, I believe, online co-op with this as well. So if you have a friend that has a 3DS, you guys can kill monsters together. Or stomp on turtles, you know, whatever. And coming in at number 5, we have Fire Emblem Awakening. I was really late to the party with the Fire Emblem series. This is the first game in the series that I've ever played, and I have no regrets. The reason I put off getting on board with this series so long is that I cannot stand grid-style turn-based RPGs and JRPGs, where you have the grid and then you have to move your characters on the grid before they attack. I just don't like that. I'm not a very good tactician, and it just doesn't appeal to me. I think it makes the battles drag out. I would rather have turn-based actual fighting than turn-based grid-like movement on the map. I would so much rather have random gen, but it actually works in this series. I really enjoyed it. After seeing like all this stuff on Facebook and Instagram and all my friends talking about it and seeing all the really good reviews online, I was like, you know, I'm gonna download the demo, I'm gonna try it out. Maybe I can just grit and bear it through the grid formations on the map. But it wasn't that bad. It actually worked really well for the game. When you use two characters close together, they can bond. If it's, you know, two people that you can pair up. They can actually get married and have children, and then those children just magically turn into adults, and then you can use them in battle as well. So that's really cool, and it also adds the challenging element that if your character dies in battle, you lose them forever. Now you can turn that option off, but it makes the game significantly more challenging, and it makes it a little more realistic, and makes your characters a little more heartfelt, and you really don't want to see them die in battle. So I really enjoyed this game. This is probably not a new one to anybody watching, but if you haven't played it, pick it up, or at least download the demo on the eShop. It's probably still on there, considering this is such a popular franchise, and try it out for yourself. It's definitely worth a playthrough. The story is great, and you can always replay it, and I can see like so many different outcomes for this game depending on, you know, who you decide to marry and all that other good stuff. So give this a playthrough. The characters are good, the story is good, the gameplay is great. Definitely worth the money. Alright, coming in at number 4, we have Animal Crossing New Leaf. I had a really hard time placing this game in the lineup. I knew it was going to be in the top 5 because it's one of my favorite game series of all time. I've played almost every Animal Crossing game in the series, and I really enjoyed this one. If you're new to Animal Crossing, you are a human that lives in a town populated by nothing but animals, and the animals are adorable. They each have their own little houses with their own little sense of style, and in this installment, you are the mayor of the village. You get to build the village up as you see fit, expand your house, decorate it. There's tons and tons of things to collect. You can go to other people's towns and see how they set their things up. You can get all the different kinds of flowers, catch all the different kinds of fish, fill your museum. There's just tons of things to do in this game. This is also the reason I don't have a physical copy of it is because I actually downloaded it directly from the eShop for a few different reasons. Generally speaking, I prefer physical copies to digital downloads. You can let somebody borrow them, you can resell them, trade them, whatever, and they don't take up a ton of space on your memory card or your console or what have you. But I downloaded this one specifically so that I could play it alongside other games. This game takes place in real time, so if it's 7 a.m. in real life, it's going to be 7 a.m. in your game, and things change in the game as they change in real life, like seasons and holidays and the time of day and events and things like that. So like there's always a New Year's celebration at midnight, and so on and so forth. So you can check in on your town for about an hour or so and then switch to another game. So I always wanted to be able to have that on me. I've also played the game a lot since it came out, and it's been out for quite a while. Nintendo also recently, probably within the last 6 months or so, I believe, released a free DLC for it for anyone that owns the game, and it expanded the game immensely, and it also made it amiibo compatible. So if you have the game and you haven't played that new DLC, shove that cartridge into your 3DS, download the DLC, and check out the new additions, because it definitely adds a lot to the game and will make you fall in love with Animal Crossing all over again. Alright, and coming in at number 3, we have Bravely Default. I don't think this is the first time I've talked about this game on my channel. I love this series. I prefer Bravely Default over Bravely Second, which is why this one comes in at number 3 and not Bravely Second. I really like both games. This is your classic JRPG style game. The enemies and battles are random gen. You run around on a map and you just get pulled into battle. The battles themselves are turn-based, and they're, for the most part, typically your typical turn-based game, but you can brave and default, as you see in the title. If you brave, you can use additional turns, so you could take up to 4 turns all at once at the same time in battle, or you can default, which is essentially a guard, and save up your turns. If you brave, though, you are taking a chance, because then you won't be able to use that character so if you brave twice, you won't be able to use them for the next 2 turns. So you definitely have to use these components in battle as you see fit, and it can screw you over if you misuse them. This is also unique in the sense that it has job classes. You can change them at any time for any of your characters. There's all kinds of different ones: paladins, knights, mages, all kinds of different stuff, and it does benefit you to max out each one for each of your characters. So this does give you a ton of playtime and replayability if you've never done that. If you've never leveled up all of your characters for every job class. So you can definitely spend some hours grinding that out. There's also sleep points. So there's a few different things that happens when you have the game loaded up and your DS is in sleep mode. You get sleep points, and you can use those to take an extra turn in battle, which can really, really help you out if you're in a hard boss fight. Another thing that happens is you're rebuilding a town, and as you rebuild the town, you can get access to new items, new weapons, and once a day you also get gifts from each of the buildings and shops that you build in your town. As you street pass people, they become your minions and build your town for you. So if you street pass 15 people with Bravely Default, all 15 of them will be workers in your town. So things will take less time the more people that you street pass. So that's pretty cool. It really encourages you to keep your DS on you, to keep it in sleep mode, and interact with the game constantly. I really, really like that. I would replay this game. I don't know how many hours it took me to get through this, but it was a lot, but I have no regrets. The story was really good. It intrigued me from beginning to end, and I played it straight through. I didn't have to take a break with this one and come back to it like I'm so notorious for doing. So it's definitely worth a shot. Start here. I would not recommend starting with Bravely Second. The stories are different. Most of the characters are different, but there are some things that would probably confuse you, so I would start here if you're going to start with one. Alright, and coming in at number 2, we have Fantasy Life. I freaking adored this game. It is so adorable. It is another RPG style game, but this one you really get to customize. You customize your character, you give them different lives, as it's called. It's like the jobs in Bravely Second, or Bravely Default, but a little different. You have a lot more variety as far as lives go. You have like a miner, a blacksmith, a paladin, a baker, a fisherman. There's all kinds of different things, and some of them seem like they would be useless, like the fisherman or the baker, but it's not. And they often rely on each other. So if you switch to the miner life, then you can go out and mine like a crap ton of materials and then bring it back, switch to a blacksmith, and make things out of the materials. And that's just one of the many examples where the lives overlap. So it really benefits you to level up your character in all different aspects of life, which I just love the little play on words. This has a lot of adorable humor in it. Everything is customizable to you. You can choose to kill stuff, you can choose not to. The story is really, really cute and good. It keeps you interested. This is another game that I played start to finish without taking a break in between, and even after I was done, I went back and finished leveling up each job for my character. This one also has a lot of replayability for those exact reasons. Even after the game's done, there's still plenty of stuff you can do in here. I mean, you could even just run around and kill stuff or collect items. It's just fun all around. It's a good game, and I would recommend everybody check it out if they haven't already. Now, before we get to our number 1 spot, we're going to take a look at some honorable mentions. The first one I want to talk about is Fire Emblem Fates. The reason that this didn't necessarily make the top 10 is because I haven't finished it yet. I've only barely started it. Mostly just because I have a ton of games right now that I'm playing, and I just haven't had time for this, and these games are very time consuming, but it seems to be right on par with Fire Emblem Awakening. This one has two actual different separate games. I went for Birthright because I wasn't really sure which one to choose, but there's also Conquest. If you have this game, let me know which one you went with, or if you have both and which one you liked better. But the story aspect in this seems pretty unique, but everything else is pretty true to the franchise. So I can't really give you too much on this as of now. I do expect it to be just as good as Fire Emblem Awakening, if not better. So that is why this is just an honorable mention and not in the top 10. Alright, and our next honorable mention is Zero Time Dilemma. This is an entire series of games that centers around the concept of time travel in multiple dimensions. These have been around for a while. I think the first one I ever played was on regular, either Game Boy SP or regular DS. I don't remember which one. I don't think I ever had a regular DS, so probably Game Boy SP. and that one was called 999. You definitely have to start there if you haven't played any of these in the series, or I think that you would be super confused. Some of the characters do carry over. They do reference the other games. I do think you could play this as a standalone game, but if you really are interested in the series, I would start from the beginning, because some things just make better sense. The reason this didn't make the top 10, but is only an honorable mention, is because the gameplay in this is not the best. And like I said in the beginning, gameplay is extremely important to me. It is one of my pet peeves when it comes to gaming. This I had to Google to figure out what the hell was going on. It gives you a big giant flowchart with no explanation. You can't see any kind of summary of what you've already filled out on the flowchart, and you just kind of have to guess at what the hell you have to do to get there. And I don't like that. I don't like that it doesn't give you any kind of help or any kind of summary for each little period of time in the flowcharts. But the story is amazing, and it even will tug at your heartstrings at a few moments. And it really makes you think about the concept of multiple dimensions in time travel, and if you could go back, what would you do differently? The main premise in this is kind of like the old Saw movies, like escape room type things, like you have to solve the puzzle to get out of the room, and the puzzles in this are really good. It is story heavy, so if that's something that, if you're a cutscene skipper, you're gonna hate this because you really need to pay attention or you're not going to get anywhere. But this game is really, really good. It's just probably not my favorite in the series, which is why it is an honorable mention and not in the top 10, but still definitely worth a playthrough. And next on our honorable mentions, we have Persona Q. I am obsessed with the Persona series. It's probably my second favorite series of games to Zelda. Zelda's probably number one, and then maybe Mario, and then maybe Animal Crossing. Harvest Moon's up there too. But anyway, that's enough rambling. Persona Q is a pretty good addition to the series. I like the more typical Persona. I don't like the stupid rhythm games or battle games that they've come out with. I like the regular Persona games. If you've never played any of those before, the whole premise of those is that you are a typical person, usually a high school student. During the day, you have to level up your relationships with other characters to unlock abilities, and at night you're in a dungeon crawler. So they're really unique. I've never played another game like a Persona game, and they're very time consuming, very typical JRPG, and they have turn-based battles in an open dungeon. Persona Q is a little different. It is a mashup with the Etrian Odyssey style games. If you've never played any of the Etrian Odyssey games, they're also a JRPG, and they're turn-based battles, but you go into the dungeon, and you're on a giant grid. You move block by block by block, but in a first-person point of view perspective, and you have to fill in the map as you go. You don't get a map, you have no clue where you're going, and you have to draw your own, which is really something that uses the 3DS touchpad at the bottom. You have your map at the bottom, you have to draw it in with your stylus, and then you have your first person perspective up top. And then when you get to the battles, they're your typical turn-based battles. Now, I like both of those series. I like Etrian Odyssey, which I even considered putting in my top 10, but it didn't quite make the cut. And I love Persona. But for some reason, it was just lacking for me. I dropped this game for maybe 6 months to a year before I picked it back up and finished it. The story just wasn't there for me. You also don't have the social links like you have in typical Persona, where you have to get to know the other characters. There's no incentive for going out of your way to talk to other characters or see cutscenes and things like that. You could just jump right into the dungeon, grind it out, and call it a day. And I don't like that. That's not what I was expecting out of a Persona game. You do get to play as either the Persona 3 characters or the Persona 4 characters, so this has a lot of replay value, as you could play it from either perspective and get a different game style out of it. But overall, it was lacking for me, and I was a little disappointed. But it's definitely not a bad game. It's just not what I expect out of a Persona game. And last but certainly not least, we have Bravely Second. I'm pretty sure I've talked about this game on my channel before. As I mentioned when we talked about Bravely Default, I do like that one better, which is why this one is in the honorable mentions category. The only thing that I really didn't like about this that I liked about the other one is the story. It's not quite as captivating for me as the regular Bravely Default story was. I don't like the characters as well as I did. I don't feel invested in them like I did with Bravely Default. But there are a few gameplay mechanics that I like better about Bravely Second. When you start over a job, you don't start completely over with your XP, which is nice. Some of the battle mechanics are just a little smoothed out. So there are definitely things about this that I like. The story isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not as good as Bravely Default. So if you're gonna play one and not the other, I would go with Bravely Default. But both are very good games. I believe there's a demo on the eShop for one or the other, if not both. Start there if you're curious about these. Download the demo, give it a shot. It's definitely a unique gameplay experience. If you like JRPGs or just RPGs in general, give this series a shot. You're definitely missing out. Alright, and coming in at number 1, we have The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. I don't have a physical copy of this game. Well, I do, but it's packed away in a box, and I did not want to destroy a bunch of boxes to dig it out for this video. But it is something that I just loved. The reason that I picked this for the number 1 spot is because I would purchase the 3DS console solely to play this game. It is wonderful. It is, you play it from the typical top-down style like you would expect from an old school Legend of Zelda game. It reminds me a lot of A Link to the Past, which is one of the best older Zelda games in the franchise, but with obviously a lot of new modern touches. The graphics are better, just overall everything is just a little bit shinier and more polished. There's also a ton of little Easter eggs in it for other Zelda games and upcoming Zelda games in the future, which isn't so much in the future now, as this game's pretty old as far as 3DS games go. The 3DS element is pretty useful in this game, but you can definitely play it in 2D mode if you prefer that. I also like the added aspect that you can go into like painting mode. I don't remember exactly what they call it. And you can like stick Link to the wall. You can go around corners that way. Go into like slits, similar to Paper Mario. It kind of reminds me of that just a little bit. But you can find coins that are just like painted on the wall, things that you wouldn't see typically. You can also go in between worlds, the dark world and the light world. It's an awesome game. I would literally buy a 3DS just to play this game. And I can't say that about probably half the other games in this top 10. So this is definitely worth a playthrough. For me anyway, I can always replay a Zelda game at least once, if not over and over and over again, and it'd be a fun new experience every time. So that is why it is number 1. It probably shocks no one that my top number 1 game is a Zelda game, but you can't mess with perfection. But I hope you enjoyed this countdown of my top 10 3DS games. If you want to see more countdowns from me, I can do PS3, PS4, Wii U, even Vita. If you want to see that, leave this video a like. If you want to see more countdowns from me, if you have a specific console you want to see, leave it in the comments down below. Also, if you have a favorite 3DS game that I didn't talk about, also leave that in the comments, and I'll be sure to check it out if I haven't already. But thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave so you don't lose me in this crazy YouTube world, and I will see you in the next video. Bye! Hi, Bubby. Did you want to get in on the video? Encounter, but they're turn-based, as in fighting. The enemies and battles are random. Get down. Where should I go later? Let's see. There's Mario. There's Mario. Like Mario. If I can't talk all of a sudden. What are you doing, Max? You guys are just all up in this video. You want to make an appearance too? Your brother got to be in here, so now you need to be in here. I get it. I get it. Say hi. I'm not a very good strategician or whatever. Tactician. Mommy won't be too much longer, okay? I promise. And then we'll go hang out and play Persona. Alright? The enemies and... oh my god. Almost done. Almost done.